Welcome to the Merry and Bright Crochet Along, hosted by B.Hooked Crochet and sponsored by Love Crochet. My name is Brittany, and I'll be your guide over the next 3 weeks to walk you through the techniques you'll need to know to complete your pillow. Before we get started, head over to bhookedcrochet.com/merryandbrightpillow to find the written instructions, information about the supplies, and to download your color diagram. That page will be updated on December 3rd and December 10th for part 2 and 3 of this cowl. To assemble our pillows, we're going to start by single crocheting 3 of the edges together. So I have my right side facing out on both sides, so I've got the wrong sides together. I'm going to single crochet them together. So go ahead and grab color G and create your slip knot. And I'm going to fasten on here in the corner, so just in this edge stitch right here, catching both sides. Then place that new loop on your hook, pull it through the 2 stitches, and chain 1. We're not going to count this chain 1 as a stitch, so go ahead and make a single crochet there. So that's going to be the first single crochet. And what we're going to do is treat this as our corner stitch. So we're just going to make 2 more single crochets in the same space. We'll review the corners here in just a bit, but for now, go ahead and work these 3 in that stitch. And then what we want to do is make 1 single crochet for every single stitch. So I'm just jumping over to the next one, working it through one side, making sure I have the next stitch over on the other side too, and making a single crochet. And just continue that until you get to the other corner. Now when you get to the edge, we're going to work our corner. So for all of the corners, we're going to work 3 single crochets into the corner stitch. So I've got just 1 stitch remaining here on this edge. Work your hook under that stitch for each side and work 3 single crochets in that space. Now we're set up to start working on the raw edge here where we don't have any stitches to work into, but that's okay. It's not too much more difficult than what we did here. We just need to make sure that we're consistent in our approach. So what we'll need to do to keep things even is we're going to evenly space 58 stitches along the edge. We're going to work the 3 single crochets in each of the corners. When you do that, just find yourself a nice spot there to work your hook into the edge of the stitch. You can either work in the stitch or around it, whatever is most comfortable for you. And just keep track, count as you go. You may have to add a couple of stitches around that edge. So technically we have 2 rows there, so we'll put 2 stitches. We just want to keep things nice and tidy and even. There's really no right or wrong way when we're doing this here. You may have to just play around with it, find what looks best, but also know that we're going to be concealing a lot of this with Pom Poms. So if it doesn't look perfect, I wouldn't be too worried about it. So to finish things off, we're going to complete this side here. We're going to go ahead and work around that 3rd side as well. And then we need to stop. We're not going to fasten off or anything like that, but we're going to go ahead and stuff our pillow form inside, and then we're going to single crochet that last side together, just like we've demonstrated here. We'll fasten off, and the next thing we're going to look at is how to make the pom-poms. Now perhaps the neatest, the easiest, and the cleanest way to make a pom-pom is to use one of these pom-pom makers. This is the 35mm size. We do want to keep it nice and small so they're not a little too overbearing. And to work these pom-pom makers. It's really not too difficult. The yarn that you want to have prepared is color B and color G. We're going to hold 2 strands together to make our pom-pom. And you'll just open up one side of the pom-pom maker. And you're just going to steady the 2 ends together. I just like to hold on to them here off in the back. And then just simply wrap it around this little opening. So basically in between this section and this section here. And you want to get it nice and full. Now when it's about this full here, we can go ahead and close up the 2 arms. Get that to sit in place. We'll just close it up like this and then open up the other side. And I can continue wrapping over on this side. And once you have that nice and even there, we can go ahead and close it up, trim off the ends, and then find these little tracks here on the side. We're going to just place our scissors in there and trim along this line. And you'll do that on both sides. Now get yourself a cut of yarn. We want to work with about 8 inches or so. And place that down in the little crease there and up through the other side. Then we'll tie this off nice and tight. So give it a good tug, but don't break your yarn. And put a couple of knots in it. Now once we have that, we're going to use these ends to attach it to the pillow so we can trim everything up. Just go ahead and take your arms and release them on both sides. So just flip them out. And then this comes apart just like this. Now hold on to those 2 ends that I said we were going to use to tie it on. We're going to have to trim things up just a little bit. So we're going to make 24 of these pom-poms. You can go ahead and batch make them or just make them as you go. And we're going to attach them to this new row of single crochet that we just started. I would recommend starting at the 4 corners and putting a pom-pom at each one of the corners. And then you're going to evenly space them inward. So how do we attach these? Well, you're going to grab your crochet hook. It's going to help you just get the yarn through the stitch. So go ahead and just place your hook into the stitch where you know you want the pom-pom to be. And I'm just going to grab one of those strands. So pull that up. And then I'm going to go in the stitch right next to it and pull it back through. So I've got the tie on one side. Then we can go ahead and flip it over and just tie a knot. Make that nice and tight. And then the cool thing about these pom-poms is we don't have to weave in any ends. Once we get our knot that's nice and tight, just go ahead and trim off the tail the same length that the strands are in the pom-pom, and then it just blends right in.